for the YouTube folks, welcome. We are doing another live review of the cards that were just revealed a few minutes ago by the Legends of Runeterra team. These are more cards coming in the next expansion. Empires of the Ascended comes out next week on Wednesday. So we are only a few days away now. And we're just gonna kind of read these off, react to them, talk about them, see where if any of these cards will find a home in any specific decks, or if they might spurn like a new archetype or something like that. So again, quick shout out to Cosmic, by the way. Once again, he got all the cards on one graphic, I think. I barely got a chance to look at the cards before we started, but I am almost positive. I'm 99% sure all of them are here. But yeah, anyway, I'm joking. I'm joking around. Check out Cosmic stream. His Twitch stream. The link to his Twitch stream is in the top right. So you know the drill on that. Okay. We'll start from the top and then work our way to the bottom from left to right. So first we have Dragon Chow, 1 mana, 0/3 in Demacia. When you play a dragon, it strikes me and you draw 1. I think this actually sees play in dragon decks, believe it or not. Just because it says draw 1. I think if it did anything else, other than maybe some type of stat buff, and even then the stat buff would have to be good enough, this wouldn't even see play in dragon decks. But I think just because it draws a card, this will probably see play. And obviously it activates Fury. That's the idea behind Dragon Chow. You play it and then you play a dragon, it'll hit the Dragon Chow. You are hoping to kill the Dragon Chow. So that way the dragon gets +1/+1 from its Fury, because most dragons in this game, I think all of them have Fury, I believe. I don't think there's a single dragon that does not have Fury. I could be wrong. Chat might tell me, or someone might let me know in the YouTube comments. All right. Yeah, I think this will see play in dragon deck specifically, just because the draw one makes it good enough. And if the dragon somehow doesn't kill this Chow, which every dragon in the game can kill this Dragon Chow, they one-shot it right now. But let's say we get a dragon that has two power, then you potentially get to draw twice. So that's cool. There's Dragonling. Eye of the Dragon makes Dragonling. That's a 2/1. That one doesn't have Fury. That one just has Lifesteal. But I think this specifically says when you play a dragon, so I think it has to be played from hand. It can't be when you summon a dragon. It would... Yeah, this would have to say when you summon a dragon in order for the Dragonling tokens to actually strike this. You have to actually play the dragon from hand. That's the only thing. So then you have to do, like, if you do Eye of the Dragon, you'd have to do, like, summon the Dragonling, bounce it back, which you could do. There's the retreat spell, and then you return it, play the dragon, and then it strikes the Dragon Chow. You could do some shenanigans like that. But I think the main idea is to, like, just play this in a normal dragon deck and just one-shot this. So you can just draw. You draw, and then your dragon gets +1/+1. But yeah, I think it's okay. It's fine. It's a fine option for dragon decks. All right, Towering Stonehorn, 6 mana, 7/7. I don't take damage from enemy spells or skills. This is very similar to there's a Noxus card that's also 6 mana. That's a 6/5 Overwhelm, the giant elephant. I forgot the name of the card, and I feel bad that I forgot the name of the card because I played that card for a little while in some Noxus decks. It's very similar. Armor Tusk Rider. Yeah, enemies with 4 or less power cannot damage me. That's what this does. So this one's more specific to units, not spells. Like spells still hit this thing. Yeah, it is similar to Spell Shield. I think it's better than Spell Shield just because like, well, I don't know. In theory, it's better than Spell Shield. In practice, it probably isn't better than Spell Shield. Like you might be right, Pony. It might in practice, it might actually be worse because the fact that your opponent's gonna see this and then they're just not gonna cast spells on it at all. They just won't even bother. Whereas Spell Shield, at least like some players are gonna attempt to like throw cards away to pop the Spell Shield and then they lose resources. This, they won't even bother. They'll just be like, all right, I just need to play something bigger than this, basically. So, I mean, it gets chump block, but the stats are still really good for a 6-drop. Is it better than the other 6-drops that Demacia already has access to, Cytheria and Genevieve? I'm gonna say probably not. Because Demacia is very much about board control and having a board. So you being able to like buff your entire board with Cytheria or Genevieve, you probably get, Demacia probably gets more value out of that than just like a slightly overstated 6-drop that doesn't help its homies. It just kind of stands there as the biggest thing in the room until your opponent plays something bigger. Obliterate doesn't deal damage, it removes. Yes, this can still be obliterated. It's specific to damage effects. If you single combat it, the damage is from the strike, not from the spell. It's from the spell. It is from the spell. As far as single combat goes. The way Legends of Runeterra works is like, as far as single combat goes, like the damage, they consider the damage coming from the spell, not from the two things striking each other. Cause I had that exact same question about I believe Spell Shield. When Spell Shield first became a thing, I thought in my mind that single combat would still work and it would bypass Spell Shield. Cause I was like, well, the units are dealing the damage, right? But it's because the spell is causing the units to deal damage to each other, even though the units are doing the striking. So it should work the same way with Towering Stonehorn. That they consider the damage coming from single combat, which it kind of makes sense too, because single combat, like if you didn't single combat, you wouldn't be getting any damage without playing the single combat first. So it's weird. I still think it's a little weird, but I kind of get it. Why the game treats single combat the way it does as far as damage goes. As far as this spell itself doing damage. So I think every good 6-drop is better than this one. This one's not, it's not terrible. It's not a bad card, but every other, this is too much competition for Stonehorn. That's just what it comes down to. Like you'd rather have J4 or Cytheria or even Genevieve, I would think. But maybe there's a specific meta where Demacia wants this. Then I could see this seeing play. All right, Lost Riches. 4-mana burst spell, draw a treasure. If there aren't any to draw, create 2 treasures in your deck instead. Now, the treasures are very, very powerful cards. There's one that deals, it's like a 5-mana board wipe, 5 damage board wipe. There's one that summons a bunch of 5/5 fearsomes, but if they have deep, I think they have fearsome and deep. They might not have fearsome. They definitely have deep. They're 5/5s, and if you're deep, they're 8/8s. I kind of like this card just because the treasures are actually very powerful. You don't really see them around these days just because the only deck that would even play treasure cards was the deep deck, and deep you just don't see around that much. And they people started kind of moving away from playing treasure cards like Shipwreck Hoarder and stuff like that. Well, I think Shipwreck Hoarder was the only one, to be honest, that made treasures for that deck anyway. So I'm glad Bilgewater's getting this card. I don't know if this is going to replace salvage per se. In some decks, it's not going to replace salvage. Like something like Twisted Fate Swain, I think they're going to keep running salvage. Because Twisted Fate Swain, they have their win condition. Their win condition's Leviathan into Swain. Or the other way around. So they want card draw to get to those cards. So I don't see this going into Twisted Fate Swain decks, but there might be other slower Bilgewater decks that would rather run Lost Riches over salvage. I just don't quite know what those are. But yeah, it's nice. It gives you like a lot of the treasure cards are kind of extra win cons. So all right, let's look at Loaded Dice. 4 mana soul spell. For the rest of the round, when you damage the enemy nexus, nab 1. This seems a bit expensive to me. I like the effect, but it seems a little expensive at 4 mana. Like I feel like this needs to be at least 3 mana, maybe even 2 mana. Then again, I know how the community feels about nab. A lot of people do not like nab. I think nab is not a fun mechanic. Because early Rising Tides, when nab used to take off the top of your opponent's deck, not the bottom, it basically meant that you couldn't play Freljord at all. Freljord ceased to exist when nab worked that way. Plus, people just generally don't like their cards getting stolen from them. Like, it's just considered not a fun mechanic. I think it's fine, but I think that's different eras of card games. Like, the first time I played card games, like, effects were more broken and out there and admittedly less balanced than they are now. So I think nab is okay, especially like this is only nab 1 too. On top of that, it's not like it's pilfered goods taking 2 cards from your opponent. But yeah, I feel like 4 mana is a bit too much, especially considering that there are ways to damage the enemy nexus like incidentally. Most of them are in Bilgewater, and then the rest are in like Piltover and Zon and Noxus, and usually that's what you're gonna pair Bilgewater with for like a nab type of strategy. I mean, you can do Freljord too. Like Sejuani, Gangplank Sejuani's a thing, but most of the Nexus damage is gonna come from Bilgewater even in that deck, not so much the Freljord side. So it's hard for a lot of decks to get nab off, except for you kind of have to be pretty dedicated to running cards that incidentally damage the enemy nexus to play this card. Even then, I still think this is at least 1 mana too much. I think it needs to be 3 mana. Then it would actually like see play in those types of decks. Let's talk about Ancestral Boon. 2 mana burst spell, grant the top ally in your deck +2/+2. Enlightened, instead grant all your allies in your deck +2/+2. So I don't think Anivia plays this, and I don't think who plays this? This is the problem. All the Enlightened decks don't run a lot of units. All the competitive ones anyway. I'm trying to think of any deck that's run an Enlightened card. Like Karma decks, not really. Anivia, kind of, but not really. There was a Soul Ramp, but only because a Soul Ramp ran Revitalizing Roar. No, but that deck doesn't run that many units. What Freljord deck is running this? Like there's a stat buff across the board for your deck once you hit 10 mana. I get, like, even Trundle Tryndamere doesn't run that many units. And then half the time they run Fielder Rush. It just makes your best champions 10-10. Your best units 10-10. Freljord Celestial Dog deck, easy peasy. Oh god. You just play Messenger Sigil and then make a bunch of messengers and just buff all of them. Elnux, of course. Yeah, make Elnux great again. I don't see Freljord decks that are like even have a remote focus on Enlightened playing this card. Maybe like a slower Freljord deck that's pretty unit heavy that just kind of gets to 10 mana naturally without trying to ramp there or trying to just control the board until you get to 10 mana. Just kind of just plays this as like an incidental buff. No, it feels too slow on the Enlightened side. It feels too slow, and if you get to 10 mana quicker than your opponent does, you're playing a deck that runs way less units, so you're not buffing that many units. I mean, your wording stones can actually like kill things. That's that's probably it. Yeah, maybe ramp plays this and you want your wording stones to kill things. Probably not worth it. Vlad Landmark Freljord deck feels good with this. Yeah, usually they're not playing to get to 10 mana though. And that deck is I think that Vlad deck's starting to get tight. Like it's getting harder to fit cards in. Like it's pretty much, I mean, I'm thinking Braum Vlad when we're talking Vlad Landmark. I was thinking Braum Vlad, but I don't know. Worse than the Plunder that busts 3 cards? I think so. I think Shared Spoils is better than this. And some people say Shared Spoils sucks. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's fine. But you don't even see that card all the time, even in the decks where it is good. But yeah, I think Shared Spoils is better than this card. Okay, Spoils of War. 3 mana burst spell, grant an ally +1/+2. Plunder, grant +2/+4 instead. Speaking of Shared Spoils, I wouldn't play this either. Well, I mean, no, this is a tough sell. Spoils of War, it's a tough sell. Even like in Plunder decks, you can probably hit the Nexus fairly easily. Again, like you're gonna be relying on Bilgewater. If you're gonna play Bilgewater Freljord, and then because Bilgewater has a lot of stuff that like incidentally hits the Nexus, like just cards that, oh, by the way, I hit the Nexus for 1. Maybe they want this card. The thing about this is like, these are permanent stats, but one thing I've always said is that in order for permanent stats to really be worth it in this game, the stats have to be big enough. Because if you're just playing, let's say if you just play this for like grant an ally +1/+2, like that's not worth it playing over something that just gives you temporary stats. Like, I don't know, Fury of the North. That's just a random example. That gives +3/+4 till end of combat. Usually like temporary stats are almost as good as permanent stats in Legends of Runeterra. But permanent stats start to kind of pull away from temporary stats when the buff is bigger. Then it starts to matter more. So Spoils of War, maybe. It sucks you have to like, you possibly have to attack first before even getting the full value out of the Spoils of War. There's gonna be situations like that too. Isn't it a better Sejuani champ spell? Not, that's what I mean, like not necessarily. Fury of the North is not great anymore since they nerfed it. But I don't think this is necessarily better than that card. Maybe it is if you really need to be able to plunder like consistently. You have to consistently be able to plunder to even consider this card. Yeah, I don't think this is necessarily better than Fury of the North, even with the plunder. Unless, again, like your deck would have to be able to activate plunder almost every single turn to consider playing this card. Otherwise, I wouldn't play it, even in plunder decks. It has to be like heavy plunder. Maybe GP Sejuani. Maybe plays this. But it's hard for me to think of a card I would cut to add this in. Startipped Peak. 2 mana landmark. Countdown 2, create 2 random celestial cards that cost 3 or less in hand. Create 2 random celestial cards that cost 3 or less in hand. Huh. It's like double Spacey Sketcher. Or double Super Cool Star Chart. Or double the Fangs. Would we play this over Spacey Sketcher or the Fangs? Probably over the Fangs if your Targon deck can get away with it. Because then by round 4, if you play this round 2, by round 4, you're going to get 2 cards. Well, no, the problem is it's random. That's the other problem. You do not get to choose. It's random. It is random. I think it's still all right, but the beauty of the celestial cards is you getting to choose which celestial card you want. That's what makes Invoke so powerful. So this one, despite you getting 2 of those cards, you not being able to pick which one of those cards are, it probably brings us down a bit. And I don't know if getting 2 of them makes up for the fact that they're random. Yeah, I think it's still all right, but it's not that good. Yeah, like it's probably worse than Fangs since it is random. It's probably worse than Fangs and definitely worse than Spacey Sketcher even. And Spacey Sketcher you have to discard, but you just build your deck in a way where like you don't mind discarding. Like there's so many like creative card effects now that like Spacey Sketcher almost doesn't have a drawback anymore. So yeah, you don't get a body either. I think that is a little bit less of a big deal. Only because this costs 2 mana though. Like you can play this very early before your opponent starts to put bigger and bigger threats on the board. Also, this is bad against aggro too. Like you don't want to play this against aggro because aggro like just puts stuff on the board right away. Immediately. So like you don't want this card against aggro. You'd want the Fangs for sure and Spacey Sketcher. Because you need those early bodies. But against everything else, the this not being a body is a little less of a big deal. The Fangs is still better. And Spacey Sketcher is still better. This isn't terrible though. Alright, Destiny's Call. 8 mana burst. Grant an ally in hand +8/+8. Why? So Targon's just getting its own Battle Fury, except better, I guess. It is in hand. What? Why does this is my question, chat? Why does Targon continue to steal mechanics from Ionia and just make them better? I don't understand. I don't get it. Ionia is the hand buff region. Why does Targon just get to come in and just be like, nah fam, nah dog. This is how you do hand buff. So I'm gonna take this mechanic from you too, and give players even less reason to play you. Since I can arguably protect units better than you can, number one. Literally the only thing Ionia has is like straight up counter magic. Like see, this is more proof that Targon is Ionia 2.0. I've been saying that for months now. Targon just... It's like the meme, like, Ionia's like, who are you? And Targon's like, I'm you, but better. That's... that's what it is. See, I'm not even comparing this to Battle Fury anymore. I'm just comparing it to the fact that, like, because it buffs in hand. It's like, why isn't Ionia getting this card? They have all the hand buff stuff. It just... Ionia becomes less and less unique every day because of this freaking region. Just stealing everything from it. Because Ionia is dead. Okay. That's all Ionia has now. I have elusives and I have recall, and like even Bilgewater is starting to like pick up steam on the whole elusive thing. Like you notice all the good elusive decks in the past several months have not been Ionia, they've been Bilgewater with Fizz. Pray for Ionia, boys and girls. Pray for Ionia. Make Ionia great again. But yeah, this card's, it's pretty good. It'll probably get played randomly somewhere as like some random one of and some Targon centric, board centric deck that's not playing Freljord for whatever reason. It is, hey, I'll just slap this in as a one of. Actually, it isn't that strong just because usually with an effect like this, if you have a burst spell that gives stats, you want those stats to have an immediate impact by attacking or blocking. Destiny's Call doesn't really let you do that. You have to spend 8 mana to buff something in hand, and then you might not even have enough mana to play the thing that got buffed. And even if you do, your opponent still gets an action to respond to it. Now, granted, that action is going to have to be like hard removal, stun, or silence. It's probably not going to be like dealing damage to that unit, but still, the fact that they get an action. Like, you burst and then play your big thing, and then it's like, okay, they get one shot to respond to you before you can actually attack. So it's not that good. It's not that good. Targon might not even run this at all, even as a one-of. Yeah, Hush counters it. Purify does, unless it's a champion. Celestial Silence counters it, yeah. Equinox for 1 mana. It's kind of a meme. It's not 0 out of 10, but it's like, it's probably 3, 4 out of 10. Maybe 5 out of 10 at best. Okay, Shadow Isles is getting a sea monster, Sea Scarab. 2 mana, 1/2, deep. When another ally dies or last breath, toss 1. Oh, it's a constant effect. I kind of like this. It's kind of a way to speed deep up. They do have Thorny Toad. Deep decks right now. Thorny Toad's harder to kill, has last breath. You heal your Nexus 2 and just toss 2 right away. I don't know if this gets played over Thorny Toad. Maybe it does. I mean, it does have deep. So this is a 4/5 once you hit deep. Here's the problem though. Once you hit deep, you don't want to toss any more cards. That's the problem. This is the thing with deep. You have to balance like hitting deep and throwing cards out of your deck away. And then once you hit deep, you have to like continue to you have to like stop throwing cards away. And that might be hard to do depending on what's in your hand at the time. Like you could just have like a bunch of toss cards that you don't want to play anymore because you've hit deep. Like you don't need to throw any more cards away. You only have 15 cards left at the time. And then you want to play Nautilus and put some of those cards back and win the game. So I don't know. Sea Scarab's kind of weird. The fact that it has deep's kind of weird. The text is cool. The other ability is cool. Like if it just kind of sits there on board, like it helps you hit deep faster. But like I don't know if deep decks are gonna play this because you have to balance your toss effects. You can't run too many. But you have to run enough to where you can get deep fast enough. So, yeah, treasures. Treasures do mitigate this. Funny how this is called Sea Scarab. When we're talking about treasures. Wait, no, Scarab's just a bug. I don't know why I equated Scarab to treasures. I don't know why my brain did that. Okay, so Sea Scarab, I think if you're a deep deck and you are playing this, keep in mind you also have Slaughter Docks. Like you're playing Slaughter Docks. Like every deep deck probably should play Slaughter Docks. Pretty sure. But if you're playing Sea Scarab, you probably want to play cards that generate treasures. That way, like, you don't actually deck out. But even then, I'd be careful. Just because, like, you can get to a point where all you have left in your deck is treasures. Then you have to end the game. Which treasures are good at doing that. But it's still a scary situation where the only thing left in your deck is treasure cards. Because even though they're all gas and they're all really powerful, you have to win quick. Like, they need to end the game. And if they can't, then you're just going to end up decking out. Scarab, Egypt, Tomb with Treasures. There we go. Yeah, that's why I equated Scarab to treasures. Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's terrible. I just think it's like, it's a consideration. But it doesn't mean like, Deep's not just going to automatically throw this in. This isn't it's not an auto include at all. Oh, I wouldn't play Scarab over Treasures. I probably wouldn't. Treasures is a 1-drop. You know it's not as good as it used to be. I'd probably still play Treasures over Sea Scarab. But that's just because I like 1-mana plays. Soulspinner. When I'm summoned, grant me +1/+1 and Fearsome. If an ally died this round, 3-mana 3/2. It's a bit tough to play early. There are some synergies you can do. Ravenous Butcher's the first thing that I can think of, because that costs 0 mana. There's some synergies with some of the Kindred cards we saw yesterday too, I believe. But I think that's the reason that, like, this needs to be you need to play this. This needs to be a 4/3 every time it hits play. And ideally you play it on round 3. Because I think even if you play this after round 3, it starts to fall off. Even if you can get the buff off. Like, you play this on round 4, 4/3, Fearsome's kind of eh. It's still okay, but it's not amazing. Yeah, like, it's not better than Wraithcaller. It's definitely not better than that. I don't think you wouldn't play this in Wraithcaller decks. Like, you have to play this in a sacrifice deck, whether that's with Kalista or Kindred, Nasus, decks like that. I think you have to play with that early game package of like Ravenous Butcher, Warden's Prey, Curse Keeper, etc., etc. I could have sworn there was a card that yesterday that we got that had synergy with this. That wasn't Spirit Journey, but maybe that's all there was. Song of the Isles. Song of the Isles might work. You'd have to Song of the Isles, attack, and then play this end of turn. Soulspinner end of turn. In that scenario, it might be okay. Because you're not going to be able to play Spirit Journey. Spirit Journey just costs too much. So yeah, Song of the Isles, Mark of the Isles, if you decide to play that, and Ravenous Butcher. Or Glimpse Beyond. Or some other card not in Shadow Isles that sacrifices your own unit, where your unit ends up dying. I don't know. Noxian Fervor. Single combat. Single combat's really reaching, but it's a thing. Why not play Mark of the Isles early since stats matter more? That's kind of what I'm thinking too. It looks kind of like Jax, the champion. Yeah, this is it's okay at best. I don't even know if you play this in spider decks necessarily. This better spider. Nah, even spider decks don't want this, bro. They have Frenzied Skitterer and Arachnoid Sentry if you're playing Noxus, which you always are if you're spiders. Unless there's a spider deck now after this set that doesn't play Noxus. You know, Shurima should get a lot more spiders, honestly. I mean, it's Shurima. It's like, you know, Egypt themed. That type of theme. Shadow Apprentice, 1 mana, 1/1, elusive. When I'm summoned, grant me +1/+1 if an ally has ephemeral. Yeah, I think this I think this only gets played in Zed Hecarim decks that are able to generate ephemerals before actually attacking. True, there is also the ephemeral, the 3/1 for 2 mana. That's ephemeral elusive. But yeah, you need to be able to like generate ephemeral units for this to be good. Otherwise, I don't even know if it's necessarily better than Blade Scout, like just across the board. I don't think it is. I think, yeah, Blade Scout, decks that run Blade Scout will probably continue to run Blade Scout. If you go more the ephemeral route. There's also encroaching shadows. That's kind of a thing too. That might be a strat to do with Shadow Apprentice. Although Shadow Apprentice would also become ephemeral. Yeah, the 3/1 that goes back in hand is yeah, not Shadow Assassin. That's the 3-mana 1/2. But it's Shadow something, I believe. Yeah, it works with Kinko Wayfinder. Maybe you play this and the 1-mana 4/3. that's ephemeral. Then you Kinko Wayfinder both of them in play. And you're just like, got him. I have 8 power now for 4 mana. Let's attack for 8. Just get him. All right. The wrong order. Yeah, true. Apprentice comes out first, and then the Fiend thing. All right, Field Musicians. 4 mana, attune, 1/4. Each round, once you summon 3 other allies, refill your spell mana and draw 1. How are you gonna summon 3 other allies? Like, the only things I can think of are like Kinko Wayfinder. There are some ephemeral cards. It's good with Haunted Relic, so maybe you're playing this with ephemerals too. Haunted Relic automatically does that. What else? Demacia has the 4 mana thing that summons 2/2/1s with Challenger. They're elites, I believe. The card that makes Monastery good and Recall easier to achieve. Yeah. But even then, it's like you have to summon 3 units. That's hard. Without using very specific cards that flood the board with one that play multiple units for 1 card. I don't think this is really good at all. Yeah, Eye of the Dragon. That takes care of 1 unit. I think that takes too much work. Because you're usually spending 2 cards and additional mana. So it's like, Eye of the Dragon into Monastery, into Field Musicians? That sounds like a recipe to just get dunked on by like any deck that's even remotely aggressive. Because in none of those scenarios, like, Eye's not activating and Field Musician's not activating. Yeah, I think you're probably playing this with ephemerals. Or maybe some random, like, flood the board deck that's in Ionia. But usually even those are like, even those would run Kinko Wayfinder. Because that's Ionia's best, like, board flood card. It gave Ionia something, I guess. Yeah, I don't see it. Other than, like, also run this with ephemerals. I don't really see it. Like, this might actually be 0 out of 10. Actually 0 out of 10. Yeah, they do. Zed clones count, but it's like, it's late game. I mean, it could matter. It could matter late game. It is refill all your spell mana, so. And it draws. It does draw. So same thing with just play TF instead, draw 1 and refill 1 spell mana, which is almost as good as refilling all of it, especially at that point in the game if it's that early. All right. Yeah, it's decent. In that scenario, it's okay. Yeah, I don't think I would. Yeah, I don't think I'd play this outside of Ephemerals at all. It has to be Zed Hecarim. Otherwise, nope. Not doing it. Yeah, that's also true as well, Pony. You have to spend mana to get this off. It's really just spend a bunch of mana and get some of it back and draw a card. Which, like, still matters. Like, Veil Temple's in the game, and you have to work for that. And Veil Temple's a really good card. It's everywhere. But that gives you 2 regular mana, not just spell mana. Regular mana is, like, an even bigger impact. Maybe Powder Monkey's still a meme. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Crimson Bloodletter. 1 mana, 1/2. The next time you summon another ally, deal 1 to it and grant me +1/+1. It's just 1 time though, right? Yeah, it's just 1 time. I actually kind of like it. Yeah, I think it's just once. Because it would be worded differently if it was more than once. It would just say when you summon another ally. That's what it would say. When you summon another ally, deal 1 to it and grant me +1/+1. Because it says the next time, it just happens 1 time and that's it. It is still Vladimir support though, for sure. And Vlad doesn't, they have 1-drops they can play right now. They usually play like Omen Hawk and the 0/3 that gets buffed when you damage her. I forgot her name. Maybe they play Crimson Bloodletter over that card now. I think it's Unscarred Reaver, I think it's called. This is probably better than Unscarred Reaver. Because you're going to play this into Ruthless Raider, which will not take damage because it has tough. So this will just be a 2/3. Or you could even do Imperial Demolitionist. So she gets ping for 1, and then she'll ping this for 1, and then you'll have 2 2/2s. Combos with Curse Keeper too. True, it does. It does. Yeah, I don't think Bloodletter's not this. It's not trash. It's not trash. You thought it was the new Undertaker Overlord? Nah. I think people have, card game designers have learned their lesson from that one. Like, yeah, we probably can't put a card like that in like any card game now. Like, Undertaker was one of Hearthstone's greatest mistakes. Vlad is cool though. I wish like Vlad would end up working. But yeah, this has some good synergies. Keeper, Imperial Demolitionist, Ruthless Raider, just to name a few. Vlad will play this, and Noxus SI decks that are playing Curse Keeper shenanigans, they'll play this too. I think it is nice that Noxus is getting something like this. I like it. It's not like super amazing OP, but I like that Noxus has this option now for certain strategies. I do. I wish Vlad would just work. Just work, Vlad. Just be good, please. All right, anyway. All right, this is the spoder that people wanted me to get to. Shrieking Spinner. 4 mana, 2/5. Attack, grant spider allies +1/+0. Yeah, it's good. It buffs itself. 3/5, and then yeah. Buffs Elise. You know, this is really good after Elise flips. This card's insane after Elise flips. You get a bunch of like 2/1 challengers. It's like you have a massive blighted caretaker. That's what Shrieking Spinner is. So you're definitely playing this in spiders. I don't see how you can't. Yeah, it's grant too, so they get bigger and bigger. It's not even a temporary buff. And it has 5 health, so it's gonna survive against most units. Like even around round 4, around that time. But like even if it dies, like in a spider deck, you're probably, even if this goes off once in spiders, like that's enough value. Pretty sure that's enough value. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily win more. Not necessarily. But I don't know. I have this idea of how spider decks should be built. And like most of the time that idea doesn't line up with how people actually play spiders. Cause like a lot of like the spider decks these days, they kind of play out like burn decks. That's how people build them. It's less about flooding the board and more about like, I'll play these like good individual spider cards, and then the rest of my deck is burn spells. And yet I feel like that's not the way Riot wanted spiders to be played. I feel like they wanted spiders to flood the board, similar to discard aggro. But yet discard aggro is doing all the board flooding. So I felt weird about discard aggro being built the way it is, and how that's the best way to play discard aggro. Like I feel like it shouldn't be that way, but that's how it is. So burn spells, laughs, and Lysandra. Yeah. It's gonna buff 2 to 3 spiders on average, I would say. Because you're playing Elise, and then you're gonna have a 3-drop spider that's insanely good. Like your Frenzied Skitter is a 4/2. Your Arachnoid Sentry is a 4/2 when this is attacking. So it's... Then again, if you have this in play and Elise is flipped, your opponent's in trouble. I don't think they want to deal with Blighted Caretaker every turn. Assuming you can keep making spiders after you play this Shrieking Spinner. But I think it's good. Yeah, it's 4 mana 3/5. When it's attacking, it's a 3/5. That's decent. That's good. That's why, look at Shen. Shen's a 4 mana 3/5. Good card. It protects the card next to it. It's better than this card, but 3/5 stats, 4 mana? Great. I've never seen a card game where a 3/5 for 4 mana has been bad. Haven't seen it in any card game. Maybe Troll Scavenger, but that doesn't get played, and that's an LOR. Or troll whatever that thing's called. The one that gets regen if you behold an 8 mana card. Tazdingo was good. Tazdingo was solid for a while. That was a solid card. They fear other spiders because they mostly have under 3 attack. Yeah. I think it's 8 out of 10. It's not worse than a 7 out of 10. There's no way it's worse than that. But I'd say 8 out of 10 for this Shrieking Spinner. Okay, strength in numbers. Slow spell. Summon 2 Legion Marauders. No. Production Surge. 0 mana. Slow spell. To play, spend all your mana. Summon random turrets whose total cost equals the mana spent. Production Surge. Thermal Beam. Random turrets equal to the mana spent. Its total cost equal to the mana spent. So let's say you spend 8. You have a chance of getting a T-Hex. You know what's weird? In a way, there is a magic number for this card. There's a magic number where you have the greatest probability of summoning good turrets that have impact. It's definitely for Heimerdinger, for sure. You don't play this outside of Heimerdinger. Well, maybe that's not entirely true. There's a magic number for this. I don't know what that number is, but there's a certain mana point you want to spend on Production Surge to where like you just have the highest probability of getting X turrets. Yeah, it could work with Lux too. Maybe Luxheimer's the thing again. Spend 6 mana on this. Maybe the magic number is 6. Maybe it is 6. But like what I mean by magic number is that you want to look at like the probability of hitting, like if you spend 6 mana, let's say your deck wants like, okay, like the 4 mana Overwhelm is good. The 3 mana Fearsome one is good. But like you don't want to hit the 1 mana one. You're okay with hitting the 0 mana one. The 0 mana one's underrated. The one with Challenger, that one's underrated. People underestimate that one. It's better than the 1 mana one. Like if you spend 6, like maybe you're cool getting, maybe you get a Fearsome one, a tough one, the 1 mana one that's bad, and then maybe you get a 0 mana one. So you get 4 turrets, but they all cost 6 mana. Maybe you get Overwhelm and Tough, and then a 0 cost one. Maybe you just get Overwhelm and Tough. Maybe you just get double Fearsome. Because they are random turrets, which means you probably could get the same one twice. Maybe. Maybe not. Yeah, it's probably 6 mana. That's probably like the magic number for Production Surge. It's probably 6 mana. Because you want something that you want, like some that are a bit more impactful. You get the chance to hit the elusive one too, and then the quick attack one is it's fine. It usually gets chump blocked, but it's fine because at least it's likely removing something when it's in combat. So it's the 5-1. It's a quick attack one, so. Even though you can chump block it, you're not gonna like chump blocking it. That's the whole point of the 5-1 quick attack one. You don't like chump blocking it, and you also don't like to use removal on it either. You just want to incidentally kill it. Otherwise, it's just gonna stick around and be annoying. Kind of like Draven. But yeah, I think it's 6 mana. 6 mana is the magic number for this. So yeah, Heimer and or Lux would definitely play this. Maybe other decks would too, but I don't want to speculate. Oh yeah. If it's 6, you get a 6 mana thing with Heimer, and then they'll insta level Heimer. As long as your Heimer doesn't die on your opponent's action after you cast this, then yeah. You can Production Surge into the elusive turret. So I like it. It's not bad. All right, Concurrent Timelines, 1 mana soul spell. For the rest of the game, the first time you play a follower each round, pick one of 3 followers with the same cost to transform it into. This seems like a meme. This seems like a meme. Concurrent Timelines playing Ledros effect into summoning Dreadway. OTK is confirmed that it works from Riot devs. 60% chance to find Dreadway 2. Karina works too. Karina control tier 1 again. Actually good. So you play this on 1. Don't you have to play Ledros though? Wait, no. Okay, hold on. The first time you play a follower, you pick one of 3 followers with the same cost to transform it into. So when you play Timelines and you play Ledros, the Ledros blade still goes off even though Ledros can transform. Ledros play effect goes on the stack, transforms into Dreadway. Skill resolves with Dreadway on the board. Oh god. Oh god. Oh, why? 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 So basically you Ledros, and if you hit Dreadway, you have to counter the Ledros blade or you die. You have to counter Ledros blade or you die. And you get to pick from one of 3, right? Followers with the same cost. So you have the Dreadway. Okay, so if that's confirmed by the Riot devs, can you also hit Celestials? That's my next question. Can you also hit Celestials? Because there's a Celestial that costs 9. And it's a follower, technically. So you have Dreadway, Kadrigrin, Karina, Mina, and Brightsteel right now. So you have a 1 in... Let's say Great Beyond doesn't count. You have a 1 in 5 chance of automatically winning the game. 20% chance. Yeah. Deny and list. That's what I mean. Like, you have to counter it instantly. If you're at an odd amount of health and your Nexus is tough, you still die. That's hilarious. No invokes. Okay. So you have a 20% chance to instantly win the game. Followers shouldn't count. No, but these are all followers. No, but Karina's a play skill though, right? Or did GMO also say like Karina works too? So play skills actually work? Or do you have to play Karina and then no? No, you wouldn't play Karina. Like it all, you have to play Ledros. Let's say you Ledros and then transform into Karina. Ledros ability goes on the stack. You transform it into Karina, but Karina counts as being summoned in that scenario. It's not being counted as being played. Like, because play skill always means you have to play it from hand. Like, Karina won't go off. It shouldn't go off. But it should not go off just based on like how the game treats cards with the play skill icon. Oh, okay. So you can do it off Karina into Dreadway. So it all rests on Dreadway. So you either play Commander Ledros. Yeah, Karina Control, maybe it's back, maybe. I mean, 20% chance to automatically win the game. I mean, sure. Karina doesn't guarantee that, but it gives you 2 chances to hit Dreadway, basically. 20% each time. It's like you Ledros, even if you whiff Dreadway, once you play Karina, that's another chance to hit Dreadway and deal 10. If you play Karina first and hit Dreadway, that's 10. Up to 10, potentially. Depending on, you know, which cards are spells. Because it's going to be 2 damage to all enemies any on your Nexus for each spell obliterated. And then Dreadway doubles that. Yeah, that's kind of fun. Yeah, Ledros can't find itself. I know that. It's 60% chance to find Dreadway. I always hate that math. Like, it's probably right, but I always hate that kind of math. Because I always see it as, people say 60%, and I always see it as 20% 3 times. In three separate scenarios, but people always add it up into one scenario. Like, oh, since it's 20% 3 times, therefore it's 60% to find it. One is like, no, I mean, it's actually like 20% 3 times. 20% chance on the first, 20% chance on the second, 20% chance on the third. Like, it's not actually literal 60%, but in my mind. But I don't know. Whatever. I'm not a probability expert. And maybe that's what the probability experts actually say, like, oh, it is actually 60% by definition. You know, in my brain, it's like, no, this is 20%, this is 20%, this is 20%. Like, when you add them up, you can add them up and say it's 60, but like, in a way, it's not really 60. But again, all right, we done. It took me 2 hours, but we're done. This is going to be heavily edited, I'm pretty sure, because I don't even want this thing to last an hour, but we will see. To be fair, with 17 cards, this is the biggest, as far as like sheer amount of cards, this is the biggest reveal we've gotten ever in the history of the game with no champion. But, you know, what are you gonna do?